Yo, 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 what's up? It's Pete Thorn. Welcome to the studio. Hey, check it out. Today, it's the JEL 20 or Jake E. Lee 20 watt amp from Friedman. Now, Jake E. Lee, man, we got to give it up for Jake E. Lee. That dude stepped into impossible shoes to step into and absolutely did it in style and made that gig his own. And of course, I'm talking about with Judas Priest. No, I'm just kidding. I'm talking about with Ozzy back in the day. And of course, then he went on to Badlands fame, put out some solo work. And he's just a cool guitar player that is a legend. I always really admired him. He was exciting. He just had a really explosive, cool style. When anybody talks about Jake, like Warren DeMartini, when he speaks about Jake, or, you know, George Lynch, or guys like that, they always seem to speak with respect and reverence and friendship and all that kind of stuff about Jake. All right, I've gushed enough about Jake. So this is his signature 20 watt amp. There was a limited 100 watt version. And they decided to come out with the 20 watt, the little guy. There's a few other amps in the series, like the Pink Taco, the Little Sister, which is like a mini Dirty Shirley. They all utilize a 20 watt, really cool power amp that Dave Friedman designed. And then they've got different front end circuitry going on. So in this one, what's happening is there's a clean channel, and it's got its own master. So you got two masters on this amp, one for each channel. So you can crank up the clean and get a little bit of grind out of it and get a Marshally kind of, you know, low gain kind of crunch thing, or get cleaner sounds. Three-way bright switch on the clean. And then over here you've got the preamp gain control for the distortion channel. And the distortion character in the amp is basically like this. You've got kind of modded 800, optimized modded 800 to the sound that Jake likes. And then you can pull the gain control. Okay, and that gives you basically a boosted modded 800. More gain, kind of like hitting it with a pedal in front, except better because it's doing it with a tube circuit. And there's tons and tons of gain there if you want it, or there's really, really awesome, and I would suggest you to explore these if you get one of these. There's really, really awesome mid-gain or mid to high gain, old school high gain sounds in there before you even pull that knob out. I mean, just the channel on its own without boosting with the gain boost sounds killer to me. And that's actually the guitar in the left channel in the song at the beginning of the video that started the tune. That's kind of probably my favorite tone, I think. Just because there's so much punch and clarity and warmth, and it's just really cool. How many times can I say it's really cool in one video? We're going to find out. 4-band EQ, there's a bass, middle, and treble control. Presence is on the back, and there is a presence control on this one. And then you got the two masters here for both channel 1 and 2. Foot switch is included there, just 2-channel foot switch to bang between channel 1 and channel 2. If we turn the amp around, take a look at the back. Unplug the power there, we don't need that right now. What do we got here? We got send and return for the effect loop. We got XLR out. I didn't try that in this video. It's the same circuit that's in other Friedman products like the Mike Nomo, I think. It's an analog cab sim, basically, and if you want to send, you know, just an XLR to the PA or to your recording interface, you can do that using that analog cab sim. There's a level control, and then there's two different positions, a darker and a brighter. And then there's also a ground lift if you're running into any ground loop problems. Got your two speaker jacks there with a 16 and 8 ohm impedance switch, and there's that aforementioned presence control right there. So for my whole video, I ran it out into my old Marshall cabinet, the late 70s Marshall cab out in the other room that's got black back speakers in it. Mic'd it up with a 57 and that new Soyuz mic that I've got, and used a blend of, you know, them in different capacities to get different sounds. So I'm going to play more through the amp. I'm going to solo some of those parts from the beginning of the video and the song outside of the mix so you can hear them clearly. Let's get on with it. It's the JEL 20 watt guitar amp from Friedman and Jake E. Lee. So I just cut my first part in the song at the beginning of the video, and I'm on the gain channel, but I don't have the gain boost on, I don't have the SAT switch on, and I've only got the gain control on about 130, and I wanted to get a nice, clear, but, you know, punchy rock tone that's, I guess, considered these days mid-gain. And what I noticed is that this sound almost nails the sound from King's X, The Train. It's the opening track off the 1996 Ear Candy album. It's one of my favorite reference go-to Marshall sounds of all time. And it's got kind of a dark but clear character to it, and I've always just really liked it. And so anyway, that song sounds like this, and I'll be damned if this doesn't just about nail the tone. Right? It's just, go listen to it, please, and tell me in the comments if I'm not crazy, but I think that just about nails the tone from the train. But it sounded really great on these kind of like chords with close intervals. I wanted the notes to ring through clear, and the more distortion you use, the more it muddies up the chords. So that's why I went for lower gain and just lots of punch. So as a double to the main rhythm part, I decided I would turn on the gain boost, but back the gain down a little bit, just see what character that got me, and then also turn on the saturation, so to get a really kind of like, you know, that saturated kind of metal grind that a saturation circuit gives you, which is kind of clipping in the power amp, essentially, like a limiting circuit. Anyways, it sounds like this. It's pretty aggressively toothy upper bright, but I like that in the track. It sounded cool. It sounded like it works well as a double to the other kind of cleaner guitar part. It's not clean, but cleaner. And so if I turn off the saturation, you'll hear what that does. Gets louder because we're not clipping or limiting the circuit using the saturation diodes. So it gets louder, so you have to back down the volume a bit. So let me try and volume match them. You can hear how it just sounds more, just a little more metal, I always say, with the saturation on. And you do have to bring that volume control up considerably to kind of match the volume. There's no way around that. It just kind of is how it is with a clipping diode saturation circuit. But a cool sound nonetheless. When you bring up this control, it's going to take that, the teethy thing that I'm getting, the kind of aggressive upper mid thing, that'll get less and less the more you bring the gain up. Right, but now we're getting like into serious amount of distortion at that point, which is cool. And that's probably what I'm going to do for some lead guitars. You know, keep that up there in the nether regions, get a bunch of gain. I don't know if I'll use the saturation. Probably won't use the saturation for the leads. Maybe. We'll see what happens. Let's get on with it. So I did a little bit of clean stuff on the song at the beginning of the video. There's like an 8-bar section with just some clean arpeggiated guitars. You get a foot switch with the amp to switch between the dirty and the clean channel. And it's just a single gain knob for the clean channel and a volume control. And then you get the shared EQ that also works on the clean channel. You do get a bright switch on the clean though. It's a 3-way bright. One of them is really subtle, and then one of them is quite noticeable, and then the other one's an off position, I believe. That's the most bright. This is just a little bit of bright, I think. And this is off. Yeah, so I used the most bright position because I was using these SDS1 single coils in the neck position, and I wanted a little more clarity for the part so that it spoke through the track. So it's totally cool. You could pump some pedals through it and get some cool stuff going. Turn on my compressor here. Let's turn up the volume a little bit and see what happens if we bring up around 6 o'clock. What if we bring up around 1 o'clock, I meant. Turn off my compressor. And that's getting hit with a JB right now, so it's going to distort for sure. You know, Jake's a smart guy. I mean, I have to say, these singles, I go to them and I expect to almost have a big reduction volume that I'm not getting because they're loud singles, these SDS ones. I think they're ceramic magnet, and they were basically a single coil kind of version of, I think, the DiMarzio Super Distortion. I think that was kind of the idea. Super Distortion single. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's what SDS stands for, and they have the same pole pieces as the Super. Anyways, so when I go to them, they balance, this is Dave Friedman's Jake E. Lee model, and it's got a JB in the bridge as they come, but it's quite low. Dave likes his pickups quite low in the pick guard, and so long story short, I get almost the exact same volume out of the singles as the humbucker. Right? It's not that different. So Jake was a smart guy, you know, with his pickup, you know, the slant. He was the first guy I ever saw slant the single coil the other way, you know, with the bass to get a little more clarity. And also, them balancing so well is a really interesting thing. Anyway, so if I was to go to a guitar that was a little less gainy, I would probably have, you know, a little bit of a cleaner result out of this clean channel. As it stands, I get the cleanest results, you know, with the gain down quite low around 9:30, 10 o'clock. All right, I just recorded a solo. I have the gain cranked up. I've got the gain pot pulled, and it's on about 8. The gain pot, so I'm getting a lot of gain. Got the master up around 5, so I'm driving pretty hard. I got the treble on 1 o'clock, 1:30, mids on 1 o'clock, 1:30. I have the bass down, kind of more like around 10 o'clock. Kind of lean out the lows a little bit for the solo. On the back, the presence for the whole video has kind of been around the 5 mark, 5 or 6. I added a phase 90 to this, by the way. It's some delay for the solo in the mix. Phase 90 in front of the amp. So I'll turn on the phase 90 here in a you know, just really fun lead sound. I mean, it's super martially. It's got squeak. It's got squawk. It's got all the stuff you want. It's nice and warm too, as you can tell. Like I've got a kind of warmer thing going. Probably sound really good for like Fair Warning Van Halen kind. Probably sound better if it was in tune. Come on now. Thanks for watching my video on the JEL20, great sounding all tube, 20 watt, little gain and clean and mid gain monster. Jake's a legend, and hey, you know something that I think that's nice about Dave is that he gives guys like Jake, who he just really has respect and reverence for, but gets in contact with them and says, hey, let me make you an amplifier. You deserve an amp, like your own signature stuff, you know, because you're great. And, you know, I think that's awesome. Like I said before, everybody speaks about Jake with great respect, and, you know, it's just a cool cat. So it's awesome that he's got these amps, both a limited 100 and now this 20 watt one. This cool symbol on the front and stuff, and we love you, Jake. You can check it out further, the website down there in the video description below. Click there, it'll take you to more info about this fine amp. Please hit subscribe if you haven't. Hit the little bell beside the subscribe so you get alert when I put out new videos. Hey, I'm Pete Thorn. Thanks for listening. I had fun doing this one. See you real soon. Take care.